I've been gaming for 20 years, and I can count on one hand the number of times a game has made me literally stand up and applaud. Last month, it happened twice. Look, the PS5's been out for a while now, and we've moved past the "there's no games" meme. The real problem? There are too many games, and nobody has time to play everything. So I did something stupid. I played literally everything worth playing on PS5 to find the 16 games that you absolutely cannot miss. Not the 16 best games, not the 16 highest rated games, the 16 games that'll make you remember why you love this hobby in the first place. You know that feeling when you boot up a new console for the first time? That pure childlike excitement? Astrobot bottles that feeling and turns it into an entire game. This isn't just a platformer, it's a love letter to PlayStation itself. Every single level is packed with so much creativity that you'll find yourself grinning like an idiot. One minute you're shrinking down to mouse size, the next you're inflating into a balloon and floating through the cloud. The DualSense controller becomes part of the game in ways that still blow my mind. You'll feel raindrops, sense different textures under Astro's feet, and the adaptive triggers actually make you work harder when pulling objects. But here's what really gets me: the nostalgia bombs. You'll rescue bots dressed as Nathan Drake, Kratos, Aloy, and dozens of other PlayStation legends. Each one has their own little animation that perfectly captures that character's essence. The soundtrack absolutely slaps too, with remixes of classic PlayStation themes that'll have you humming along. Some people dismiss this as just a tech demo or a kid's game. Those people are wrong, dead wrong. This is pure, concentrated joy in video game form. It's the kind of game that reminds you why you fell in love with gaming in the first place. If you own a PS5 and haven't played Astrobot, you're literally missing out on one of the most delightful experiences in gaming. Do yourself a favor and fix that immediately. Alright, let's talk about pain. Beautiful, gorgeous, absolutely stunning pain. Demon's Souls on PS5 isn't just a remake, it's a revelation. Blue Point Games took From Software's punishing classic and made it look like it crawled straight out of your darkest nightmares, in the best way possible. The Tower of Latria still makes my skin crawl with those mind flayers and their creepy bell sounds echoing through stone corridors. Boletaria feels properly dead and decaying, with every brick and corpse rendered in disturbing detail. The haptic feedback when you block an attack or cast a spell adds this visceral layer that wasn't possible before. You feel the weight of every sword swing, the tension of every bowstring pull. And man, those boss fights hit different now. The Flame Lurker isn't just tough, he's terrifying with all that molten rock and fire effects. The Tower Knight makes you feel genuinely tiny. This game doesn't hold your hand. Hell, it doesn't even acknowledge you have hands. You'll die. A lot. You'll lose souls you spent an hour collecting because you got cocky and fell off a cliff. But when you finally beat that boss that's been destroying you for hours, when you master that one section that seemed impossible, nothing else in gaming comes close to that rush. Fair warning though, this game will change you. You'll either become addicted to the punishment or you'll rage quit and never look back. There's no middle ground with Demon's Souls. Web swinging through New York has never felt this good. I'm serious. Insomniac somehow made traversal that was already perfect even better. Now you've got web wings that let you glide between buildings, and switching between Peter and Miles mid-mission feels incredibly smooth. The story hits harder than Rhino in a china shop. Without spoiling anything, watching Peter struggle with the symbiote while Miles tries to hold everything together creates this emotional tension that had me glued to my screen. Kraven isn't your typical villain either. He's absolutely terrifying and makes every encounter feel like a life or death situation. The combat is where things get really spicy. Peter's symbiote abilities are deliciously brutal. Those tentacles aren't just for show. You're literally throwing enemies around like ragdolls. Meanwhile, Miles's evolved venom powers make you feel like an electric god. Switching between their completely different fighting styles keeps combat fresh, even 30 hours in. But it's the little moments that got me. Helping that kid find his grandpa and queen. The side quests that actually matter and tie into the main story. The way civilians actually react to you differently as Peter or Miles. Coney Island, man. Just Coney Island. That whole sequence is perfection. This isn't just another superhero game going through the motions. It's Insomniac at the peak of their power, crafting something that respects the source material while doing its own incredible thing. If you've ever dreamed of being Spider-Man, this is as close as you'll ever get. This game shouldn't be possible. I mean that literally. The way you zip between completely different dimensions instantly, with zero loading, while explosions and particles fill the screen. It's basically witchcraft. Insomniac built this as a PS5 flex, and holy hell did they deliver. But beyond the technical wizardry, Rift Apart is just pure fun. Remember when games were allowed to be colorful and silly and didn't take themselves so seriously? This is that. You've got a gun that turns enemies into topiary. Another one shoots ricochet buzzsaws. There's literally a weapon called the topiary sprinkler that turns bad guys into harmless plants. It's absurd, and I love every second of it. Rivet is an amazing addition to the series. She's not just female Ratchet. She's got her own personality, her own fears, and her own arc that actually made me care about a cartoon space fox. Kit's story hits surprisingly hard, too. These characters have depth while still being funny. The Pixar comparison everyone make? It's accurate. This looks better than most animated movies. Every world is drowning in detail, from the cyberpunk nightclub with its neon reflections to the pirate dimension with its perfectly rendered water. Your jaw will drop at least once per level, guaranteed. The DualSense implementation is chef's kiss perfect. Every weapon feels different in your hand. The triggers give resistance based on what you're firing. It sounds like a gimmick until you experience it. This is comfort food gaming at its absolute finest. It won't challenge your worldview or make you question existence, but it will make you smile for 15 hours straight. Returnal is what happens when you give a studio known for arcade shooters a budget and tell them to go absolutely wild. This game is hostile, not just difficult. Actively hostile to your existence. You're Celine, stuck in a time loop on an alien planet that reshapes itself every time you die. And you will die. Oh boy, will you die. But here's the thing. Dying is the point. Every death teaches you something. Every run, you get a little further, understand the systems a little better, and slowly piece together what the hell is actually happening to Celine. The story is told through cryptic audio logs, disturbing house sequences that'll mess with your head, and environmental storytelling that trusts you're smart enough to connect the dots. Combat is butter smooth, like criminally smooth. You're dash canceling through bullet hell patterns while hip-firing alien weapons that feel properly alien. The Hollow Seeker with portal round, the Electropylon driver that creates a web of death. These aren't your standard video game guns. They're weird and wonderful and deadly. The 3D audio is insane. You'll hear enemies skittering above you, behind you, getting closer. Play this with headphones at night if you want to question every sound in your house afterward. And that third act, when you think you understand what's happening and the game pulls the rug out, I sat there staring at my screen for a solid 5 minutes, processing what just happened. Returnal isn't for everyone. It's punishing, obtuse, and refuses to explain itself. But if you click with it, if you embrace the cycle, this is one of the most unique experiences in gaming. How do you follow up one of gaming's most beloved stories? You blow it wide open and make something nobody expected. Rebirth takes us out of Midgar and into a massive world that somehow feels both familiar and completely fresh. This isn't the Final Fantasy VII you remember, and that's exactly the point. The combat has evolved into something special. Switching between Cloud's heavy strikes, Tifa's lightning-fast combos, and Aerith's magical destruction feels incredible. The synergy abilities where characters team up for devastating attacks, pure dopamine hits. Yuffie isn't annoying anymore. She's actually hilarious. Barrett's character development made me genuinely emotional. And the relationship between Cloud and Aerith, they're handling it with more nuance and care than I thought possible. Without spoiling anything, there's a certain scene everyone's worried about. All I'll say is, Square Enix knew what they were doing. They knew the weight of expectations, and they made choices that'll have people debating for years. The side content isn't just padding either. Queen's Blood, the new card game, I've spent embarrassing hours perfecting my deck. The Gold Saucer is absolutely massive with games I actually want to play. Chocobo Racing has no right being this addictive. Even the towers and combat challenges feel meaningful. This game is huge, like properly massive. We're talking 100 plus hours if you want to see everything, but it earns that length. Every region feels distinct, every character gets their moment, and the story keeps throwing curveballs that recontextualize everything you thought you knew. Rebirth isn't trying to replace your memories of the original. It's creating new ones alongside them. Nobody saw this coming. A sequel to a niche top-down shooter becomes the most important multiplayer game of 2024. Helldivers 2 is lightning in a bottle. It's Starship Troopers meets Left 4 Dead with a sprinkle of Dark Souls difficulty, and somehow that combination works perfectly. You're spreading managed democracy across the galaxy one bullet at a time. The satire is so on point, it hurts. You're literally fighting bugs and robots while your ship announcer cheerfully reminds you that your family will be notified of your heroic sacrifice. Every mission briefing sounds like propaganda because it is propaganda, and you eat it up because it's hilarious. The gameplay loop is deceptively simple. Drop in, complete objectives, extract. But then your teammate calls in an orbital strike on your position. Another one gets grabbed by a massive bug and dragged screaming into a hole. Someone accidentally shoots you in the back while trying to help. It's controlled chaos, and I can't get enough. What really makes this special is how the community became part of the game. We're not just playing Helldivers, we're participating in an actual galactic war. When we failed to defend a planet, it actually fell. When the community rallied to unlock mechs, we all work together. The developers are basically game masters running a massive D&D campaign for millions of players. The friendly fire isn't a bug, it's the entire point. Every weapon is lethal to everything, including your friend. That tension of needing your teammates but also fearing them creates moments you just don't get in other games. Calling in danger close air support while your squad sprints away screaming never gets old. For Super Earth. Let's address the elephant in the room. Yes, Eve's design is controversial, but if you dismiss Stellar Blade as just fan service, you're missing out on one of the best action games of the generation. This is Shift Up's first console game, and they came out swinging like they've been doing this for decades. The combat is ridiculously satisfying. It's this perfect blend of Sekiro's parrying, Bayonetta's combos, and Nier Automata's style. When you perfectly dodge through an attack and trigger that slow-motion counter, it feels incredible. The haptic feedback on perfect parries is so good that I stopped looking at visual cues and started playing by feel. The boss fights are absolutely mental. These aren't just big health bars. They're elaborate dances of death with multiple phases, environmental hazards, and attacks that'll delete your health bar if you get cocky. The Abaddon fight in the desert, the Opera House sequence, these moments rival anything From Software has done. But what surprised me most was the world building. Earth is properly dead, and exploring the ruins of our civilization is genuinely unsettling. You'll find these environmental stories told through corpses and debris that paint a picture of humanity's last days. The soundtrack goes unnecessarily hard. It's all synth and metal and atmospheric dread that perfectly matches the action. When that chorus kicks in during a boss fight, you feel like an absolute badass. Is it derivative? Sure, it wears its influences on its sleeve, but it takes the best parts of action games from the last decade and polishes them until they shine. Sometimes that's all you need. Excellent execution of proven ideas. This game ruined other RPGs for me. I'm not being dramatic. After experiencing the absolute freedom Baldur's Gate 3 offers, going back to games that railroad you down predetermined paths feels like wearing shackles. Want to talk your way past every encounter? Go for it. Want to stack 40 boxes to climb into a window and bypass an entire dungeon? The game applauds your creativity. Want to seduce a bear? I mean, that's certainly a choice you can make. Larian Studios basically looked at the limitations of video game storytelling and said, what limitation? Every single dialogue choice mattered. That goblin you spared in Act 1, he shows up later with information. The kid you pickpocketed, their family remembers. The game is constantly keeping track of everything, weaving your choices into a narrative that feels genuinely yours. The turn-based combat is addictive as hell. Shoving enemies off cliffs never gets old. Creating explosive barrels and baiting enemies into them, chef's kiss. The environmental interactions are insane. You can freeze water, electrify metal, set everything on fire, then teleport away laughing. It's tactical chaos. The characters aren't just party members. They're fully realized people with their own goals, traumas, and growth. Asterian's story about vampirism and abuse hit me like a truck. Karlach's rage against her circumstances is heartbreaking. Even the characters you don't romance have complete arcs that matter. The game respects your intelligence too. No quest markers holding your hand. No glowing objects screaming, interact with me. You have to actually read, explore, experiment. Finding secret solutions feels earned because the game trusts you to figure things out. This is a 100-hour commitment minimum, and you'll immediately start a second playthrough to see what happens if you make different choices. Jesse Faden walks into the Federal Bureau of Control looking for answers and becomes the director of a paranormal government agency. That's the normal part. Control is weird. Like properly, unapologetically weird. You're in a building that exists outside normal space, fighting possessed office workers while wielding a shape-shifting gun and telekinetic powers that let you throw photocopiers at enemies. The environmental destruction is absolutely bonkers. By the end of a fight, the office looks like a tornado hit it. Desks splintered, concrete chunks floating, papers everywhere. The PS5 version running at 60 frames per second makes the chaos butter smooth. The atmosphere is unmatched. This brutalist architecture mixed with paranormal horror creates this unique vibe that's part SCP Foundation, part Twin Peaks, part office nightmare. You'll read documents about a rubber duck that makes people paranoid and think, yeah, that tracks. The way the story unfolds through documents, audio logs, and those creepy Threshold Kids videos is brilliant. Nothing is explained directly. You're piecing together decades of conspiracies and cover-ups while dealing with an active crisis. The game assumes you're smart enough to connect dots. The ashtray maze sequence is one of gaming's greatest moments. When that metal music kicks in and you're flying through shifting geometry while obliterating enemies, pure gaming bliss. I literally stood up and applauded when it ended. The DLC is essential too. The Foundation expands the lore in terrifying ways, and the Alan Wake crossover ADE sets up things that'll blow your mind if you're following Remedy's connected universe. Control treats you like an adult. It's mysterious, challenging, and refuses to dumb itself down. In a world of games that over-explain everything, this confident weirdness is refreshing. Capcom had an impossible task: remake one of the most beloved games ever made without ruining what made it special. They didn't just succeed, they created something that might actually be better than the original. Leon's still dropping one-liners, but now he's got depth. The cheese is still there, but it's aged into something more refined. Ashley isn't annoying anymore. She's actually helpful and has real character development. Luis gets the screen time he deserved. Even the merchants got personality upgrades. The combat feels perfect on PS5. The adaptive triggers give weight to every shot. The haptic feedback, when a chainsaw gets close, you'll physically tense up. Parrying chainsaw attacks with your knife feels so good it should be illegal. The way enemies react to specific body part damage is grotesque and satisfying. The additions and changes all make sense. The expanded castle section, the new boss fights, the side quests that flesh out the world. Nothing feels like padding. That cabin fight in the rain, the regenerator encounters that are somehow even more terrifying, the minecart section that's actually fun now. Everything's been polished to perfection. They kept the camp, but added genuine horror. The village section at night is terrifying. The atmospheric lighting makes familiar areas feel completely different. You're constantly on edge because enemies are smarter, more aggressive, and work together to corner you. Mercenaries mode is crack cocaine. The new mechanics and characters make it even more addictive. I've spent more hours chasing S ranks than I care to admit. This isn't just a good remake, it's the new definitive version. Capcom proved you can respect the original while making something fresh. Street Fighter is cool again. After the disaster that was 5's launch, Capcom came back swinging with a game that actually feels complete, polished, and fun from day one. Who would have thought? World Tour mode is basically Yakuza meets Street Fighter, and I never knew I needed this. You're creating your custom fighter and running around Metro City, getting into street fights, learning from the masters, and eating street food for stat boosts. It's absurd and amazing. You can learn Spinning Bird Kick from Chun-Li, then immediately use it to fight a refrigerator. I'm not joking. The drive system changed everything. Drive Impact makes every match tense because one good read can completely flip the momentum. Drive Parry gives everyone a defensive option that feels good to use. Burnout State adds this layer of resource management that keeps matches dynamic. Even scrubs like me can feel cool doing something. The presentation is immaculate. Every character oozes personality, from their intro animations to their win poses. The hip-hop aesthetic with the dynamic soundtrack that changes based on match flow? Perfect. The way paint splatters during super moves? This game has more style than a Fashion Week runway. Online actually worked. Rollback netcode means I can fight someone across the world and it feels like they're sitting next to me. The ranking system makes sense. The Battle Hub is actually a place I want to hang out. They fixed everything that was broken about Street Fighter V. Modern controls are controversial, but they're brilliant for accessibility. My friend who never played fighters is now hitting combos and having fun. Sure, classic controls are stronger at high level, but who cares? More people playing Street Fighter is always good. This is the most welcoming, feature-complete, and fun Street Fighter has ever been. This isn't just a racing game. It's a love letter to car culture written by absolute nerds who care way too much about brake disc temperatures. And I mean that as the highest compliment possible. Polyphony Digital spent years recording the exact sound of a 1994 Mazda RX-7's turbo spool just so you could hear it accurately in your headphones. That's the level of obsession we're dealing with here. The DualSense implementation is ridiculous. You feel the road surface changing through the triggers. Grass, gravel, wet tarmac, they all have different resistance. The haptics let you know when you're about to lose grip before you even see it. You're basically driving with your hands instead of your eyes, and it's transformative. Scapes mode turned everyone into photographers. You're spending 40 minutes positioning your car for the perfect shot at Mount Fuji during golden hour. The ray-traced reflections in photo mode are so good that people legitimately can't tell if shots are real or from the game. That's not hyperbole. There are entire forums dedicated to guessing. The cafe mode is genius game design. Instead of throwing you into boring races immediately, You're learning about automotive history while collecting cars like Pokemon. That menu book about the evolution of the Porsche 911, I actually read every word and loved it. This game made me care about cars I've never heard of. Weather is properly dynamic now. You'll start a race in sunshine and end in a thunderstorm, desperately trying to find the dry line while everyone else aquaplanes into barriers. Deciding when to pit for wet tires becomes this intense strategic gamble. One wrong call and your race is over. Is it as exciting as Need for Speed? Number. But when you nail that perfect lap at the Nürburgring, when you finally understand trail braking, when your ghost replay is 2 seconds faster than before, that feeling is unmatched. Ragnarok had the impossible task of following up 2018's masterpiece, and Santa Monica Studio chose violence. Not just the physical kind, though there's plenty of that, but emotional violence that'll leave you staring at the credits wondering how a game about Norse mythology made you cry about father-son relationships. Kratos is tired. You feel it in every movement, every conversation. He's trying so hard to be better for Atreus, but his boy is pulling away, keeping secrets, making the same mistakes Kratos made. Watching them clash while trying to prevent the literal end of the world is heartbreaking and brilliant. The combat evolved in all the right ways. The new weapon won't be spoiled here, but when you get it, game changer. Literally, every fight becomes a puzzle of elements, combos, and positioning. You're not just mashing buttons, you're conducting a symphony of destruction. Thor isn't what you expect. Without spoiling anything, that first fight sets a tone that carries through the entire game. Odin is terrifying precisely because he's not just a big monster to punch. He's manipulative, charismatic, and makes you question if you're actually the good guys. Richard Schiff's performance is legendary. The side quests matter now. They're not just collecting ravens or opening chests. You're helping spirits find peace, uncovering lore that recontextualizes the main story, and having actual conversations that develop characters. Mimir's stories alone are worth doing everything. That one sequence everyone talks about? You know the one. When the music swells and everything comes together? I had to pause the game and walk around my room. Santa Monica Studio really said, let's traumatize everyone who has a complicated relationship with their parents. And succeeded. This isn't just a sequel. It's a complete emotional journey that respects your intelligence and destroys your feeling. Aloy returns, and she's done with everyone's bullshit. Forbidden West takes everything from Zero Dawn and cranks it up to 11. The machines are more dangerous, the world is more beautiful, and the story goes places that'll make your brain melt trying to understand the implications. Guerrilla Games said, what if we made every single frame a screenshot opportunity? The detail is insane. Individual moss strands on rocks, the way light filters through dust particles, how Aloy's hair moves differently when wet. I've spent embarrassing amounts of time in photo mode just admiring the technical achievement. Swimming changes everything. You're not just exploring horizontally anymore. The underwater sections are gorgeous and terrifying. Seeing a snapmaw swimming toward you from the murky depths hits different. The sunken caverns are some of the most beautiful areas in any game ever. Combat is more tactical now. You can't just spam fire arrows at everything. Machines have multiple ways to be approached. Elements matter more, and the new weapons like the spike thrower add layers of strategy. Taking down a slaughter spine feels like an actual accomplishment, not just a gear check. The story goes absolutely wild. Without spoiling anything, the revelations about the past, the true threat, and where humanity's headed make the first game look simple in comparison. The Far Zenith plot could have been ridiculous, but they ground it with genuine emotion and character development. Side characters actually matter. Kotalo, Zoe, Alva, they're not just quest givers. They have arcs, growth, and reasons to exist beyond helping Aloy. The base becoming this living hub where everyone interacts was such a smart addition. Machine Strike is stupidly addictive. It's basically robot chess, and I've spent hours perfecting strategies that I'll never admit to my friends. Let's get this out of the way. Yes, it was broken at launch. Yes, CD Projekt Red screwed up, but Cyberpunk 2077 in 2025 on PS5 is a completely different animal. This isn't just fixed, it's phenomenal. Night City might be the greatest open world ever created. The density, the verticality, the way every district feels genuinely different. You can spend hours just walking around, listening to conversations, watching the city live and breathe. When it rains and all the neon reflects off the wet streets, that's wallpaper material. The story hits different after Edge Runners. Johnny Silverhand isn't just Keanu being cool, he's a genuine character with depth, flaws, and growth. The relationship between V and Johnny evolves in ways that feel natural and earned. By the end, you actually care about this digital ghost in your head. Phantom Liberty is the best DLC ever made. I'll die on this hill. Idris Elba's Solomon Reed is incredible. The spy thriller plot is tight, and the new ending it adds is devastating. Dogtown feels like a completely different game within the game. The choices actually matter, and none of them are clearly right or wrong. Update 2.0 rebuilt the entire game. The police system works, the perks make sense, the combat feels weighted and impactful. You're not just becoming stronger, you're becoming a different type of legend based on your choices. Cyberware actually changes how you play instead of just adding numbers. Build diversity is real now. Netrunner builds are basically playing watchdogs, turning the city's infrastructure against enemies. Sandavistan builds make you feel like you're in the Matrix. Pure strength builds turn you into a guerrilla arms wrecking ball. Every playstyle is viable and fun. This is the game we were promised. It just took 2 years to actually arrive. If you wrote it off before, you owe it to yourself to experience what it's become. Here's what's going to happen now. Half of you are going to tell me I have excellent taste. The other half are going to question if I've ever actually played a video game before. Both groups are probably right, but that's what makes this community amazing. We all have completely different experiences with the same games. The game that changed your life might be the one I couldn't get into, and that's perfectly fine. So let's do this. Drop your own must-play PS5 game in the comments. Not your favorite, but the one you think everyone should experience at least once. Let's build the ultimate PS5 library together. And if this video helped you find your next game, maybe share it with that friend who's still only playing FIFA. They need help. We both know it.